I spent 2 hours and here's what I realized. Hi, today I'm going to tell you about a movie based on real events. Jenny, along with thousands of people, sees off the famous writer on his final journey. During the ceremony, the young woman has a seizure, but she manages to regain control in time. Late for dinner, Jenny lies to her parents that she was at a friend's house, and only her brother Teffy smiles quietly, realizing she isn't telling the truth. To change the subject, the brother starts talking about the upcoming debates, and Jenny asks his permission to attend the event together with him. But their father sharply refuses, reminding them that it's not proper for a lady to participate in such affairs. Before going to bed, Jenny enters the bathroom and has another episode, during which she talks to someone, but once again she manages to pull herself together. In the doorway, she notices her grandmother waiting for her granddaughter for their usual evening ritual. In the morning, Teffy prepares for the debates and finds his sister in their carriage, despite their father's strict prohibition. But Jenny isn't going to the meeting. She only asks her brother to take her to the outskirts of town, where she can quietly read a book and smoke in secret from their strict parents. Although the brother isn't thrilled by the idea or by his involvement, he can't refuse his beloved sister. After buying a fresh bun, Jenny arrives at a modest cafe where she sips a cigarette and reads poetry, glancing at a young man at the next table. Noticing this, a stranger strikes up a conversation and lends her a book about spirits, leaving a note with his name on the first page and asking her promise to meet again to return it. In the evening, reading the gifted book, Jenny shares with her brother news of her new acquaintance. He lays his head on her lap, listening as she reads aloud. The next day, the family travels to the neighboring estate where Teffy's fiancée lives. This union is extremely important to their father, and he is outraged when Jenny mocks and offends the young woman. This leads to a conflict in the family. As Christmas Eve approaches, Jenny and Teffy put up the Christmas tree. They climb into the attic to fetch decorations. In that moment, Jenny has another episode and confesses to Teffy that she now sees many different spirits, not just one man like before. She opens up and asks him not to be afraid, pointing out that the book the cafe stranger lent her says there are many like her. Jenny goes again to her grandmother's bedroom to brush her hair and tuck her in. Suddenly, she abandons her task and begins searching through the wardrobe, ultimately finding a locket the relative lost 40 years ago. When her grandmother asks how she discovered it, Jenny reveals that her late grandfather had told her about it. The next morning, Jenny is roused by her worried mother, who tells her that she and their father are again heading to the neighboring estate. She urges her daughter to behave and say nothing unnecessary. Seeing tears in her mother's eyes, Jenny believes it's just concern for her behavior. She hugs her parent and, unsuspecting, prepares to go visiting. En route, Jenny notices a travel bag at her father's feet and realizes they're not headed to a social call. Looking out the window, she doesn't recognize the road. Then she sees mentally ill women in the garden and understands everything. But it's too late. The carriage stops at the gate of a psychiatric asylum where their father has brought Jenny after Teffy confided her secret. The staff immediately sees the girl, ignoring her screams. Only Teffy collapses beside the carriage, overcome with distress. After a brief struggle, the head of the family signs the papers consenting to his daughter's enforced treatment. Head nurse Genevieve examines the newcomer without ceremony and warns her that any disobedience could land her in solitary confinement. Jenny is ushered into a communal ward and is shocked by where she has ended up. Dozens of women, half of whom behave completely erratically, attempt to touch the young patient. But help arrives in the form of Louise, a girl clearly suffering from psychological issues, though it seems these were caused or worsened by the very treatment and environment here. The patient chatters incessantly about her engagement to a young doctor named Julian and about the annual masquerade ball for the wealthy and officials held at the clinic. During lunch, Louise introduces the newcomer to the other residents, describing each woman in great detail. Jenny struggles terribly through her first night and barely sleeps. In the morning, she watches as head nurse Genevieve escorts Louise away. From their conversation, it becomes clear this is routine practice. Louise is taken to a large office where dozens of doctors are gathered, including Julian, who smiles at the patient discreetly. Dr. Charcot, the clinic's chief physician, begins a hypnotherapy session. When Louise collapses to the floor, he calmly steps over her and bids everyone goodbye until the next session. The patient is moved to the medical wing, where she regains consciousness. Dr. Julian comes to visit, dismisses the staff, and, exploiting her naivety, tells her that very soon, at the masquerade ball, he will propose to her. Then he slides one hand under her dress while using the other for self-pleasure. One day, Genevieve darts home to visit her elderly father, sharing the latest news from the clinic over lunch. Returning to work, she climbs upstairs to see the newcomer. At that moment, Jenny speaks to her as if through her deceased sister's voice. Genevieve refuses to listen or believe, calling her mad and ordering her to hush. The doctor orders Jenny to undergo ice water treatment, which completely breaks her. Teffy tracks down Genevieve and pleads with her to help Jenny, confessing how much he regrets everything. He asks the nurse to give Jenny back her book. After some thought, Genevieve agrees, but only on condition that Jenny attempts to connect with her deceased sister and facilitates communication. One night, Genevieve wakes Jenny and leads her to her office, intending for her to witness a ritual. Jenny struggles to reach the blonde spirit, but they finally make contact. The apparition tells her that their father has fallen ill at home, collapsed in the kitchen. Genevieve rushes home and indeed finds him after a seizure. When he asks where she learned, Genevieve decides to tell the truth and is met with condemnation and accusations of madness from her father. After another hypnotic session, Louise loses the use of her legs and half of her body. Shocked by this, Jenny can no longer remain silent and begins denouncing the doctors in furious, explicit terms. As a result, she is declared dangerous and moved to a dark, solitary cell overseen by the stern Jean. Food is passed through a small hatch at the foot of the door. The only shutter is opened sparingly. The treatment seems designed purely to break the patient's wills. One day when Jean arrives to torment the girl again, Jenny tells the warden that she communicates with her dead mother and knows all her secrets. In response, the nurse uses force and only releases her throat when Jenny can barely breathe. Genevieve, remembering everything, breaks under the pressure of the secret and tells Jenny she will help her escape the clinic if she endures a bit longer. The nurse convinces Dr. Charcot that Jenny's will is completely broken and she is no longer dangerous. He approves her transfer back to the general ward, where everyone prepares for the upcoming ball. Jenny finds Louise in a wheelchair, but her spirit remains unshaken, and she still believes in her forthcoming marriage and a happy future. That night, Jenny reads the note Genevieve smuggled her during the transfer. Teffy receives a similar secret invitation. The night of the ball arrives. Wealthy and influential guests enter the clinic, seeking entertainment with the mentally ill. Teffy arrives as well and quickly finds his sister, inviting her to dance. Jean watches them closely, suspecting they're in cahoots with Genevieve. The festivities begin. Some guests openly mock the eccentric women. Others plan to fulfill their baser fantasies, offering strong drinks and whispering sweet nothings in their ears. Amid the chaos, Genevieve manages to sneak Jenny and Teffy into her office, change Jenny into ordinary clothes, and guide them toward the exit. Dr. Julian also seizes the opportunity. He wheels Louise into a private room, telling her of their wedding ritual, and flips the paralyzed woman onto a table. Realizing she cannot resist, he forces himself on her. In that moment, an elderly patient, incarcerated for 25 years for murdering her unfaithful husband, bursts in. Though Julian is partially through the act, she nonetheless protects Louise by attacking Julian's most vital parts. Jean, noticing the patient and her brother are missing, starts searching frantically, but Genevieve successfully escorts the siblings out through the gates. She stays behind, refusing to flee with Jenny. A year later, Jenny writes to a friend that she's free, living happily far away, no longer hiding her gifts and helping those in need. Genevieve, now a patient herself, smiles reading the letter on a park bench, this time not as a nurse, but as one of the patients. That was the price of freedom for both Genevieve and Jenny. That's all. Subscribe the channel to watch more interesting movies.